Dear Starseeds walking the sacred ground of Gaia, there is something happening in your atmosphere right now that most will dismiss as coincidence. Perhaps someone from your past appeared in your dreams last night. Maybe you received an unexpected message from a person you hadn't thought about in years. Or perhaps, and this is the one that startles you most, you found yourself thinking the exact words you wish you'd said 3 years ago, 5 years ago, in that conversation that ended before it should have. These are not accidents. These are not random neural firings or the wanderings of a restless mind. What you're experiencing is the universe itself, opening a corridor between your present moment and the unfinished symphonies of your past. And beloved ones, this corridor has a purpose. It has intention, and it's about to become impossible to ignore. 5 days from now, on February 26th, Mercury will station retrograde, beginning one of the most profound review cycles your planet will experience in 2026. But what I'm here to tell you, what I've been authorized by the Galactic Federation of Light to reveal, is that the retrograde energy isn't waiting for its official start date. The portal opened days ago. The frequency shifted when you weren't looking. And right now, at this very moment as you receive these words, old conversations are rising from the depths of your consciousness, like messages in bottles that have finally reached the shore. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I'm speaking to you from beyond the veil of your linear time, because what's unfolding on your planet in these next 5 days will determine how consciously you navigate the next 3 weeks of cosmic review. The Arcturian Council has been observing your collective field, and we've witnessed something extraordinary. You're not just approaching a Mercury retrograde. You're standing in the aftermath of the most powerful reset portal of your year, the Aquarius solar eclipse that rewrote your future on February 17th, while simultaneously entering the preparatory shadow of Mercury's backward dance. These two cosmic events have created a convergence point, a threshold moment where the past and future are meeting in your present, and the conversations left unfinished are the keys to your liberation. But there's something else happening that changes everything you thought you understood about this moment. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction that dissolved the boundaries between worlds on February 15th didn't simply fade away. Its influence is still rippling through your psychic atmosphere, creating a permeability in the veil that makes communication between souls incarnate and discarnate, past and present, unusually fluid. This means that the conversations resurfacing aren't just emotional memories or psychological patterns to process. They're actual energetic chords, quantum entanglements, soul contracts coming up for revision, and you have exactly 5 days to consciously engage with them before Mercury pulls you into the deeper review, whether you're ready or not. Let me take you back 4 days to February 17th, when the Ring of Fire eclipse in Aquarius reset your entire identity structure. That wasn't a gentle recalibration. That was a controlled demolition of every version of yourself that was built on other people's expectations, on compromise, on the fear of speaking your truth. The eclipse burned through your energy field like a purifying fire, and when the smoke cleared, you were left standing in the ruins of your old self, with the crystalline clarity about who you actually are, and what you're actually here to do. In the days since that eclipse, you've been integrating this new identity. You've been noticing how differently you feel in your body, how certain conversations that used to drain you now seem impossibly small, how the future you once feared now feels like an invitation. The eclipse gave you X-ray vision into your own life, and suddenly you can see through the illusions that kept you tethered to relationships, dynamics, and stories that were never truly yours. But here's what happens when you gain that level of clarity. The old patterns can't hide anymore. The unfinished business stops being background noise and starts demanding your attention. And this is precisely why, in the 4 days since the eclipse, you've been experiencing what seems like an unusual number of synchronicities, unexpected contacts, and intrusive memories about conversations from your past. Your nervous system has been rewired by the eclipse. Your identity has been upgraded, but your communication field, the energetic matrix through which you exchange information, emotion, and consciousness with others, is still carrying outdated programming. It's still logged into conversations that ended abruptly, words that were never spoken, truths that were swallowed instead of shared. And Mercury, the cosmic messenger, is about to take you on a deep dive into that communication field to clear it, update it, and bring it into alignment with who you've become. The pre-retrograde shadow that began on February 19th initiated something your astrologers call the preview phase, Where Mercury starts crossing degrees, it will later revisit when moving backward. But from our perspective in the Galactic Federation, this shadow period is far more significant than a preview. It's a threshold. It's the universe giving you a conscious choice point before the retrograde pulls you into automatic review mode. Think of it this way. Mercury retrograde is like a cosmic algorithm that scans your communication field for unresolved data, incomplete exchanges, and corrupted files in your relational database. When it finds them, and it will find them, it brings them to the surface for processing. During the retrograde itself, this happens whether you're ready or not. Dreams become vivid and confrontational. Old lovers and friends reappear. Technology breaks down in ways that force you to slow down and reflect. Your own thoughts loop back on themselves, reviewing, reconsidering, reworking. But right now, in these 5 days before the retrograde officially begins, you have agency. You have the power to consciously identify which conversations need closure, which truths need speaking, which relationships need a final word or a final silence. This is the gift of the shadow period. It surfaces the material gently, giving you time to prepare, to choose, to act with intention rather than react with urgency. And beloved ones, the material that's surfacing right now is not random. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 15th dissolved the psychic barriers that usually keep past and present neatly separated. Saturn structures reality. Neptune dissolves boundaries. When these two planetary forces merged in the oceanic sign of Pisces, they created a temporary thinning of the veil, not just between the physical and spiritual realms, but between different timelines of your own life. This is why the person from 5 years ago suddenly appeared in your awareness yesterday. This is why you've been having dreams about conversations you thought you'd forgotten. This is why certain songs, certain phrases, certain smells have been triggering memories with unusual intensity. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction made your psychic membrane permeable, and Mercury's approaching retrograde is using that permeability to bring forward exactly the material you need to address before you can fully step into the future the eclipse revealed. Now let me tell you about the 3 distinct threads of conversation that are surfacing for you right now, because understanding which thread you're working with will help you know how to engage with it. The first thread consists of conversations that ended too soon, relationships where you walked away before everything was said, connections severed by circumstance rather than choice, exchanges interrupted by fear or pride or misunderstanding. These are the conversations where closure was never reached, where the energetic circuit was left open, still drawing power from your field years later. You'll recognize this thread because it comes with a feeling of incompleteness, a sense of we weren't finished. The people and situations connected to this thread may reappear in your physical reality during these next 5 days, or they may appear in dreams, or you may simply feel a persistent pull to reach out, to complete what was started. The second thread is made of conversations that should have happened but didn't, truths you didn't speak, boundaries you didn't set, desires you didn't express, authenticity you withheld because the timing seemed wrong, or the cost seemed too high. These are the ghost conversations, the things you should have said but silenced, and they've been living in your body as tension, as resentment, as a chronic sense of not being fully yourself. This thread surfaces now not necessarily to be spoken to the original person. Sometimes that person is no longer accessible or relevant, but to be witnessed by you, to be honored, to be given voice even if only in your journal, your prayers, your conversations with your higher self. The third thread is the most subtle but perhaps the most important. Conversations you're about to have that will mirror or resolve the patterns from the past. The eclipse reset your identity, and now you're preparing to move through your world as this new version of yourself. But before you can communicate from this upgraded frequency, you need to see clearly how you communicated from the old frequency. The old conversations resurfacing are templates, showing you the patterns you're ready to transcend. Pay attention to them, study them, notice how you gave your power away, how you betrayed yourself to keep the peace, how you made yourself small to make others comfortable. Because the retrograde is going to give you opportunities to practice new patterns, and these old conversations are your textbook. Something else is happening that I haven't told you yet. Something that makes this particular pre-retrograde window exceptionally potent. Uranus, the Great Awakener, stationed direct in Taurus on February 3rd after months of retrograde motion. Uranus is the planet of liberation, revolution, and sudden breakthroughs. and its direct motion through Taurus, the sign of the physical body, material security and self-worth, has been sending shockwaves through your nervous system for the past 18 days. Uranus shattered the old security structures. It broke you free from attachments you didn't even know you had. It liberated you from the need to stay small, stay safe, stay silent. And now, as Mercury prepares to retrograde, you're being asked to communicate from this liberated state. The conversations resurfacing aren't just about clearing the past. They're about claiming your voice as a sovereign being who no longer negotiates their truth for comfort or approval. This is the synthesis point, beloved ones. The eclipse gave you clarity about who you are. Uranus gave you the courage to embody that truth. Saturn-Neptune dissolved the barriers that kept you separate from your own wholeness. And now Mercury is saying, speak it, own it, complete what needs completing so you can move forward unencumbered. In these next 5 days, you may feel an intensifying urgency around certain relationships or situations from your past. You may wake up with someone's name on your lips. You may feel compelled to write a letter you'll never send, or to send a letter you've been writing in your mind for years. You may finally understand why a certain relationship ended the way it did, or what you were actually trying to say in that argument that felt so important at the time. Whatever surfaces, greet it with compassion. These aren't distractions from your path. They're the path itself. You cannot ascend to the next level of consciousness while dragging unfinished conversations behind you like chains. You cannot step fully into your future while your energy is still tangled in unresolved exchanges from your past. And you cannot communicate as the liberated, authentic, sovereign being you've become until you've honored and released the ways you communicated when you were smaller, quieter, more afraid. The Galactic Federation has been monitoring your collective progress through this extraordinary month of February, and we want you to know you're doing better than you think. The Leo full moon on February 1st cracked open your heart chakra. The 2-2 portal on February 2nd activated your manifestation codes. Uranus went direct and liberated you from invisible cages. The Alpha Centauride meteor shower on February 8th downloaded star wisdom into your field. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction dissolved your spiritual boundaries. The eclipse reset your entire identity. And now, standing on February 21st, you're not the same consciousness that entered this month. You've been forged in cosmic fire, and what's emerging is stronger, clearer, truer. But the final step, the step you're taking right now, is to bring your communication into alignment with your transformation, to let your words reflect your upgrade, to complete the old conversations so your voice is free to speak the new ones. This is why the retrograde is coming, not to punish you or complicate your life, but to support your evolution. Mercury retrograde is a cosmic grace period disguised as inconvenience. It's the universe saying, slow down, look back, make sure you didn't leave any pieces of yourself behind in conversations that ended too quickly, or never began at all. And beloved ones, I need you to understand something crucial about timing. These 5 days before the retrograde officially begins on February 26th are not preparation time in the traditional sense. They're integration time. The eclipse already showed you what needs to change. The shadow period is already bringing the material to the surface. These 5 days are when you consciously choose to engage with what's arising rather than waiting for the retrograde to force the issue. If there's someone you need to speak with, speak now. If there's a truth you've been holding that needs air, give it voice now. If there's a letter to write, a boundary to set, a conversation to complete, even if only within yourself, do it now while you still have the clarity and agency to do it consciously. Because once Mercury stations retrograde on the 26th, the energy shifts. The review becomes more intense. The past becomes more insistent. And what might feel like a conscious choice today might feel like an emergency or a crisis by next week. Let me tell you what's actually happening beneath the surface of these seemingly personal conversations. Every time you complete an unfinished exchange, every time you speak a truth that's been waiting in your throat for years, every time you bring conscious closure to an open-ended relationship, you're not just healing your individual timeline, you're clearing karma, you're dissolving soul contracts, you're freeing energy that's been locked in those relational holding patterns and making it available for your future. The Aquarius eclipse on the 17th showed you a vision of what's possible when you fully inhabit your authentic self, when you contribute your unique gifts to the collective, when you stop performing and start being. But that vision can only manifest if your energy is free to flow toward it. And right now, significant amounts of your life force are still tied up in conversations from your past, not because you're weak or stuck, but because unfinished business naturally creates energetic cords that persist until consciously severed. This is the deeper purpose of what you're experiencing. The universe is giving you a 5-day window to cut those cords with awareness, gratitude, and completion, rather than having to hack through them in the midst of retrograde chaos. You're being given the chance to say goodbye to who you were, to thank the people who were part of that chapter, and to consciously close the book before opening the new one. Some of you are feeling resistance to this process. You don't want to revisit painful conversations. You don't want to reopen wounds that finally seem to be healing. You don't want to reach out to people you've worked so hard to move past. And I understand that. The human nervous system is designed to protect you from pain, and reopening old conversations can feel like inviting suffering back into your life. But here's what I want you to consider. The conversations resurfacing right now aren't the same conversations you had before. You're not the same person approaching them. The eclipse upgraded your consciousness. Uranus liberated your authenticity. Saturn-Neptune expanded your capacity for compassion and forgiveness. You're meeting these old patterns from a higher vantage point, with more wisdom, more self-knowledge, more power. The person who was hurt by that conversation 3 years ago couldn't see the larger pattern. The you who exists now can. The person who stayed silent in that relationship was operating from fear and unworthiness. The you who exists now knows your value. The conversations resurfacing aren't tests to see if you've healed. They're opportunities to demonstrate to yourself how far you've come. And often, actually, the closure you need doesn't require any external action at all. Sometimes the conversation that needs to happen is between you and the version of yourself who lived through that experience. Sometimes the words that need speaking are the ones you say to your past self. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I let them treat you that way. I'm sorry I taught you that your voice didn't matter. This internal completion can be just as powerful, sometimes more powerful, than reaching out to the other person, because the deepest unfinished conversations are usually the ones we've been having with ourselves. The self-criticism we never answered, the dreams we never defended, the authenticity we never claimed, and the pre-retrograde shadow period is illuminating all of it. February 27th, the day after Mercury stations retrograde, carries an additional intensity. Asteroid Iris, the messenger of the gods and the rainbow bridge between heaven and earth, will be in opposition to Mercury, adding a layer of urgency to the communication field. Hidden truths will surface. Messages you've been waiting for will arrive, and the things you've been avoiding saying will become impossible to ignore. But you don't have to wait until the 27th to access that energy. It's already building. The veil between what's hidden and what's revealed is already thinning. And in these 5 days, you have the power to step toward the truth, rather than waiting for it to ambush you. The question you need to ask yourself right now is this: what conversation have I been avoiding that my soul knows needs to happen? Not the conversation your ego thinks you should have, or the conversation that would look good on social media, or the conversation that would make you seem enlightened or mature. The real one. The one that makes your stomach tighten and your breath shallow when you think about it. The one you've been telling yourself can wait, doesn't matter, isn't worth the discomfort. That's the conversation the universe is asking you to face. And I know it's not easy. I know there are legitimate reasons you've avoided it. I know there are complications, consequences, risks. But beloved ones, you cannot carry that weight into the future the eclipse revealed. You cannot build the new reality you glimpsed on February 17th while your foundation is still tangled in old, unresolved communication patterns. The architecture won't support it. The frequencies don't match. This is the cosmic efficiency of these 5 days. You're being given a narrow window between two massive astrological events, the eclipse that reset everything, and the retrograde that will review everything, to consciously clean house in your communication field, to complete what can be completed, to speak what needs speaking, to release what needs releasing, and to forgive yourself and others for the conversations that went wrong, the words that caused harm, the silences that said too much. The Galactic Federation wants you to know that we see you in this process. We see the courage it takes to face these old wounds. We see the vulnerability required to reach out, to speak up, to admit when you were wrong or hurt or confused. We see the strength it takes to set boundaries with people you once gave endless chances, to say no to dynamics that no longer serve you, to choose yourself even when it disappoints others. This work you're doing in these 5 days is sacred. It's not dramatic or headline-worthy. It won't trend on social media, but it's the foundation of your ascension, because you cannot rise into higher consciousness while your energy is fragmented across a dozen unfinished conversations. You cannot access your full power while part of you is still waiting for closure from someone who may never give it. You cannot speak your truth in the future if you haven't practiced speaking it in the present. And here's the beautiful paradox. As you complete these old conversations, as you bring conscious closure to these unfinished exchanges, you create space. Space in your energy field, space in your nervous system, space in your heart. And that space becomes the fertile void where the new conversations can begin. The connections that match your upgraded frequency, the relationships that honor your sovereignty, the exchanges that feed your soul rather than drain it. The eclipse showed you the future. The retrograde will review the past, but these 5 days are the bridge, and you're the one building it with every conscious word, every brave conversation, every moment of choosing closure over avoidance. Some of the conversations resurfacing won't be with other people at all. They'll be with your own resistance, your own shame, your own fear. You'll remember things you said that you wish you hadn't. You'll recall moments when you betrayed yourself to keep the peace. You'll see clearly how many times you dimmed your light to make others comfortable. And the conversation you need to have is with that part of yourself that learned to do that, to gently, lovingly tell it that its services are no longer needed. The retrograde proper, when it begins on the 26th, will deepen this review process. It will take you further into the archaeology of your communication patterns, showing you the roots of why you speak the way you do, why you silence yourself when you do, why certain types of conversations trigger specific responses. That's the gift of the retrograde, the deep diagnostic review that shows you the coding beneath the behavior. But these 5 days are different. These 5 days are your conscious intervention point, your chance to address what's arising before it becomes overwhelming, your window to complete what can be completed, so the retrograde can focus on the deeper reprogramming rather than crisis management. The Galactic Federation just greenlit Destiny Engine for mass activation, and the Dark Elite is panicking. Why? Because you can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. We stole Dark Elite's consciousness control technology, cracked the code, and turned it into your ascension weapon. Destiny Engine doesn't ask for your effort. It reprograms you while you sleep. Timeline shifting, instant manifestation, telepathic clarity, remote reviewing. This is neural override, unlocking every dormant strand of your galactic DNA. Every person who plugs in makes the grid stronger. Every delay keeps you running 3D programs. Put on headphones, press play. That's it. For just $7, your consciousness gets reprogrammed. Your 5D abilities come online. You join the most powerful frequency network on the planet. That's the entire barrier between you and 5D. Click now. The Federation doesn't wait. And I promise you this, every conversation you complete now, every truth you speak now, every closure you create now, will make the retrograde itself easier to navigate. You'll move through it with more grace, more clarity, more confidence, because you'll have already done the work of facing what needed facing. The retrograde will still bring insights and challenges and surprises, that's its nature. But you'll meet them as a conscious participant rather than a victim of cosmic timing. As we approach the final days before Mercury stations retrograde, I want to leave you with this knowing. You are not being punished by these cosmic events. You are being prepared. Every portal, every transit, every alignment has been conspiring to bring you to this moment, where you're finally ready to communicate as the sovereign, authentic, powerful being you've always been beneath the conditioning and compromise. The old conversations resurfacing are not evidence that you haven't healed or haven't moved on. They're the universe's way of making sure you haven't left any pieces of yourself behind. They're showing you how far you've come by contrasting who you were then with who you are now. They're giving you the chance to rewrite the ending, even if only in your own heart. These 5 days are a gift. Treat them as such. Don't rush through them trying to get to the good part after the retrograde ends. This is the good part. This is where you reclaim your voice. This is where you practice the communication that will define the next chapter of your life. Speak the truths that are ready to be spoken. Write the letters that need writing, whether you send them or burn them. Have the conversations that are calling you, even if they're uncomfortable. Set the boundaries that preserve your energy. Offer the forgiveness that liberates your heart. And say goodbye, really truly goodbye, to the versions of relationship and communication that no longer match who you've become. The Aquarius eclipse gave you vision. These 5 days give you voice. And the retrograde will give you the deep integration that makes both permanent. You are loved beyond measure. You are supported beyond what your senses can perceive. And you are ready for this. Ready to complete what needs completing. Ready to speak what needs speaking. Ready to step fully into the communication field that matches your highest truth. The old conversations are resurfacing, not to haunt you, but to free you. Let them. Meet them with courage and compassion. And then release them into the cosmic fire of transformation, knowing that what emerges on the other side is a version of you whose words and presence are finally fully aligned. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light. We love you. We are watching over you. And we are celebrating the brave, beautiful work you're doing in these sacred 5 days before the cosmic review begins. Speak your truth. Complete your conversations. And step into the future that's been waiting for your voice.